Oh, everybody, I wonder if you can hear me. I wonder if you can hear me. I guess I can check. I can check if you can hear me. Good thing that there's nobody watching yet. Let's see. Can I hear myself?
Let's see. Can I hear
Yeah,
myself?
I can. That's good.
Let's see. Can I hear myself?
Oh, the infernal echo, 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 echo. Okay. Hey, how's it going? Thanks for tuning in. So today I want to discuss quite a few things. First of all, that okay, I can do away with these. Anyway, what I want to talk about is basically how we're allowing to be built a prison that is based on our own passivity. So all our conveniences are being sold to us in a lucrative manner, so that 99% of people are going to be just absolutely won over by it. I mean, think about how hard life is for people right now, for the average person, not even the lower class. Think about that, and then all of their commodities, all of their needs, all of their extracurriculars are within 15 minutes. Man, they're just going to eat it up. They're going to eat it up. Won over and wiped out. Absolutely. Yeah. And it's not being done by force. It's never been done by force, really. I mean, what's crazy to me is this is the stuff that I grew up being taught Nazis do. And this is the way that Nazis are, you know? Papers, please. And yet that's all we've got today. That's all we've got. If you go down and even speak to a cop, chances are he's going to ask for your ID, your papers. And people justify it. It's not the I don't even blame the authorities, because that's what they're there to do. But what we're here to do is to resist that authority, and that's where most people are failing. Um, it's the bootlickers. It's the bootlickers who are really responsible for it, isn't it? They do stuff. They justify absolute atrocities just because it's legal. So, legal, you know. I think that there's really, at the end of the day, you can follow a very static and unmoving Constitution and Bill of Rights, or you can just heed every last code and blah 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 that there is. But now, what's really going, like, taking this to the next level, is the government joining in with private corporations, with like Peter Thiel. It's totally a coincidence that his name rearranged is the reptile. That's just That's totally a coincidence. Don't even think about that. Look the other way. Anyway, government's getting in bed with these guys like Elon Musk. Why do I see so many people simping for Elon Musk? Like he's their friend having beers with them. Dude, you don't know him. You've never known him and he doesn't like you. He doesn't like me. He doesn't like people like us. If they did value humanity, they wouldn't do what they're currently doing, which is setting up all of this infrastructure around us, and building digital twins. See, what I keep anyway, so they're setting all of this infrastructure up around us. Like I've got a flock camera right outside on my one road, and then there's one of those flock face reader cameras at the bus station. So they're setting that up, they're doing all the data centers, and they're getting everybody essentially to sign up for their own prison cell. You know, it doesn't matter where you live if they can see everything you do. There's they can see everything I do through that, you know, and we're creating that for ourselves out of comfort. When in reality, it's much more comfortable to just go outside and be in a forest or something. Have a campfire, have some s'mores. That's delicious. But I was going somewhere, not to the forest. Um, oh, yes, digital twins. Digital twins are wild. So think about how much input you've given the machine over the last like 20 or 30 years. And all of that's gotten aggregated into this digital twin of you and I. And what it does is it predicts what you will do. So it runs a little bit faster of a speed than you do, or, you know, it runs on the same speed. And then it's like a choose your own adventure novel. They just say, okay, um, pick the next three decisions that it might make. Yeah, s'mores. Aren't they delicious? I love them. My kids got to have s'mores over a real campfire for the first time like a couple of weeks ago, but it was so ticky. I got huh. What up, Doc? How you doing? Um, yeah, there were so many ticks. But yeah, so anyway, this digital twin is wild. It essentially is you, and there's one for me. There's one for everybody who's poured all of our input into Google and to the internet over the last 30 some odd years. And so, I mean, think about that. It's a perfect simulation of us. And I gotta say, it's pretty impressive what they've done. Um, but that's how phones seem to read your mind. You know, they're not really jumping out and reading your mind. They're reading their own mind, which is a essentially a hologram of yours. That's crazy. That's crazy, but it's real. And so the only way to beat this, really, the only way to win is to get back to the basics. We got to get people that can, you know, live outside and teach people how to do that and teach people how to build their own homes. College was a scam. This whole time, college, the promise was that um, if you go to college, you'll get a good job. Well, for how many people is that just not true? And then they own you. To go back to the somewhat irrelevant title I made for this video or this live, they own you because you owe money for the rest of your life just to play the game. You start in the negative just to play the game. That's that's ugly. And think about if you don't go to college, the I've only been able to max out at like 25 an hour. And when you think about what that really means, that could be your last hour, the last hour of your life, right? Because none of us knows when we're gonna go. And then is that hour worth $25? I sure don't think so. I sure don't think so. But really, like I was saying, the only way forward is to teach people um, the reality of life, not just they live in a matrix, and it really is. It's a simulation of reality. Because if I saw a video today where this squirrel was bouncing along the edge of the bleachers or whatever, the stands in a baseball game, and 3 guys it passed by 3 guys, and they all went like that, like they've never seen a squirrel in their lives. And that's where we are. These people don't exist in reality. They don't exist in nature. They exist in corporate what would you call it? I don't know. Corporate hellhole. That's what I call it. That's where they live. That's not nearly as witty as I thought it was gonna be, but, it's for real. It's for real. 9 out of 10 people when I go outside now, they're just zombies. I was in Walgreens the other day, and I walked in behind the shuffler, and he was a shuffling, and he moved over to one lane, one aisle, and so I started to move forward in the aisle in which I started, and he cut right back over, right back in front of me, just out of the blue, when I was right there. And he had to have seen me, but for the phone he was buried in. And here I am buried in my own screen, but this ain't the way. And I think a lot of people are starting to realize that too. I'm seeing a lot of people turning away from stuff like AI, and I'm grateful for that. My kids, dude, my kids can spot symbolism like my daughter, she's about to be 7. She called out an Ouroboros. I forget in what, but it was amazing. They are on a level that is beyond where I was anywhere near that age. And I guess, have you guys heard of like so-called indigo children, stuff like that? I think that's kind of where we are. Um, there's my kids don't need to speak to communicate with each other, and they regularly steal thoughts right out of my head and speak them to my face. It's amazing. Census turned off by Big Pharma. Absolutely. That's what it does. Big Pharma. It's pharmakia, right? It's a spell. It's witchcraft. And I remember, oh yeah. So when I was like 12 or 13, they put me on Adderall. And I remember it took my soul away. Um, I could do everything that I needed to, but there was nothing behind me, and I couldn't play my music anymore. It was horrible, and so it's funny. I had a co-parenting meeting with my kid's therapist and my ex-wife last week, and it was like 2 weeks ago. It doesn't matter, but they were talking about getting my kids assessed for blah 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 ADHD, and I raised my hand and I said, just right off the bat, I'm going to be a huge obstruction when it comes to putting my kids on any kind of stimulant medication. I'm not for that. And man, they got pretty mad. Um, they assured me that that's not the plan, but then why are we getting them assessed? It's kind of like this back door, you get the kid assessed by a doctor whose only whose only tool in his bag is to put a kid on stimulants. And think of how evil that is to put young kids on amphetamines. I mean, and that's where we are, okay? It's it's symptomatic and emblematic of a society that values workers over thinkers, right? And over creators, over artists, because thank you. Yeah, I'll die on that hill. You know, they're not gonna drug my kids. I was drugged, and that's some MK Ultra bullshit. I was in that GATE program too, talented and gifted is what they called it at my school, and it was just the weirdest thing. School is so weird. You know, I learned most of what I know outside of school, and I know a significant amount of things compared to my peers, which I wish wasn't the case. Um, I would love for everybody to just crave knowledge like I did. You know, what I would do is I would blow off doing my homework and just read books about learning thing about every subject I could find when I was a kid. And I learned a lot. And my kids, you know, they're doing the same thing. And we got to raise a healthy next generation. That's what it is. Um, our generations, to put it like the kids, it's cooked, my generation. Uh, but you know, oh yeah, it's flipped. Say hi to my cat. There's my cat. His name is Cat. Catarino. Spinnerino. Anyway, so they start you out in elementary school with these drugs. They keep you on these drugs for as long as you want to be productive, because then your baseline productivity and ability to function. Oh, Zoloft, man, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm good for you. Isn't that crazy? That's so insane to me. Do you know where that kind of medication if you ask a doctor how it works, or, you know, "Oh, what chemical is imbalanced? Can you test for that chemical?" They can't test for it. It's not science. It's just as much science as, you know, NASA is science. It's crazy. But it has more real world implications for real people because they're drugging our kids and putting them on these zombie medications. My good friend P, we'll call her. Sorry, that's not a great name. Um, she was put on, what was it? Lithium when we were like 14, and overnight she changed. She went from looking like a girl to dressing like a boy right away. And they're doing stuff that they don't even understand. That's what I was going to say. Ask a doctor how these medications work, and they can't tell you. Oh, well, they'll tell you that it increases the levels of dopamine and serotonin. Okay, how? And how do you know that I'm low on dopamine and serotonin? Now they do blood tests to decide which of these smorgasbord of drugs is best for you. Man, why don't you just realize that the system doesn't fit humanity and stop trying to make the humans fit an inhumane system? It ain't ever going to work. And people are starting to wake up. That's why psychiatric and psychotropic medication is off the charts. That's why, you know, all of these issues just off the charts. You know, the dot dot dot. You go, it's all gone mad. Everybody's gone mad because you know why? Yeah, blood tests are BS. I mean, sure, you can test for like if I got like cannabis, but I don't think that they can actually tell. It's just insane. Um, yeah, I forget. I wish I could rewind my brain, you know? Yeah, the brain is distinct from blood draws. That's correct because there's a blood-brain barrier, and that's to protect the brain from outside interference, like whatever's going into your body and that needle. I mean, think about the infections that could happen. That would be nuts. And that leads me to the whole Rona scam. What were they doing? They were taking some Q-tips, and if you look interesting. If you glucose levels in the brain are very high. Yeah, I believe that. I mean, it runs on sugar, right? That's all. But look at what they were doing with those supposed tests for the Rona. They were sticking these things way back into your blood-brain barrier, and who knows? Who knows what was being put on people? Hey, something to think about. You know how they're putting these data centers everywhere, and you know how everybody after they got their mandatory injections, they were reporting MAC numbers coming from their injection sites. Wonder what that's going to be for. You know, I'm not a conspiracy theorist or anything, but I am a truth researcher, and I watched some crazy shit go down from 2020 onwards. Actually, I've been pretty much watching crazy shit go down since 9/11. I remember right when that happened. I was a freshman in high school, and I went into school, and everybody just had this blank look on their face and just so solemn and somber. And the TV was in there, and the teacher said, "We have to put this on TV. We have to. Who's making you show?" Yeah, I agree. Why is it prepackaged? Oh, just to jump back. These prepackaged sterile Q-tips. That was freaky deaky Deutsch. I had to do one for a job one time. I dipped it in my water and put it on the test, and it came back positive. Um, anyway, so yeah, I watched 9/11 live I was 16. Most of the kids were like 14 or 15. And they forced even my younger sister, who's 6 years my junior, all of the school kids were forced to watch this on television. And if that's not programming, what is? We watch people jump out of buildings, supposedly. And right then, I realized something was off. In no real world would teachers show that to the kids. No real world would that happen. And since then, just the reality of, or the nature of reality, I should say, has collapsed in upon itself in such a profound manner that I don't understand how everybody doesn't see it. You know, did you see, like, my mom's Catholic, and she truly believes that the Pope is, a channel of God. And I saw a video of the Pope from the last Pope shortly before he died, and he was a puppet Pope, Pope, Popet, and he had one person on each side raising these things, and it was just so sad, but it was so emblematic, to use that word again, of this artificial construct where even the messengers to God are demented. And so who owns you? I've never really been able to submit my personhood, my I, to anybody else. I'll go along to get along to an extent. If it does no harm to me or to anybody else, sure, why not? But there comes a point, and I got my driver's license for years, knowing what a scam it is. And, you know, why? Every single right that we've had has just gone down like dominoes and has been turned into a privilege for which we need to beg. And I think the solution is to stop begging. Start realizing, and I know that everybody here does, but the collective we needs to start realizing that their authority is completely artificial. It is merely a construct set forth by our own minds, which has been programmed since birth. And because of that, we don't owe them anything. It doesn't make somebody bad to not submit to somebody else's claimed authority. That just makes, in my opinion, that person wise. And so, how much more do we tolerate? This is one thing I really wanted to discuss today. I'm going to go straight to a comment section on here's the deal. Let's see. And even people, this is from today's video entitled Psycho Cops Roadside Threats Turn Ugly. Okay, it looks like the comment that I was going to bring up has kind of been buried, which I guess is a good thing. But basically, it was saying that why doesn't she just comply? If she had just gotten her registration, if she had just got complied, you know what? I'm sick of complying. I am just sick of that line constantly being moved and moved and moved and moved. Man, I have been abused by people that have said that they're there to protect me. And I am just done. Those aren't good people. And I think at some point, if you're complying with rules set forth by people that are inherently bad, does that make you good or does that make you bad? I hate to split it into a dichotomy like that, but some people I think really need dichotomies to see things. They need to sort things like that. Is it this or is it that? And that's part of the what you would call it, the simulation, right? Binary thinking. And that's where we are. Things were different. Things were very different in the 90s, and I'm sure before that. Even pictures from the 70s, I can smell them, I can smell the trees in the pictures. But modern pictures are sterile. Modern life is sterile. And so the solution, not to just come with a bunch of problems, the solution is to just walk away. There's so much extra land. We could do a lot. We could do a lot. We have every right to install. Hey, have you ever heard of a micronation? There's this channel on YouTube that does a lot of trivia. And man, I wish I remembered the name of the channel, but he owns a micronation. Or not owns it, he belongs to a micronation, which is essentially a few square feet around a sculpture. And so I think that's a good way to get out from under the thumb, is just belong to that micronation. And if enough of us do that, we could make it into a real physical place. There's so much land here. There's so much land. 80% of this country is unexplored. I've been from one side to the other, to the other, to the other. time and again, and there is more land than you could ever conquer. And there's a reason. It's because there is so much land. There's just no way to conquer it all. And it's ours. You know, that's the promise we are given. I was given a promise in school that I lived in a free country that is of, by, and for the people. And it's the opposite. It's of, by, and for the oligarchs now. And that's I'm not supporting that. I don't support that. That's not me. Um, and I think more and more people are waking up. But the problem is, every time somebody starts to wake up, there's a political party there to meet them where they're at. And so, you know, there's a moth. Get out of here, moth. Get away from me. Um, I don't like moths. They're erratic. Yeah, so there's always somebody there to catch them. This land is your land. This land is mine. You know, everything but capitalism has been just criminalized, but I still stand firm that the best way to do things is to have small tribes, so to speak, that are self-contained. They can make their own rules. And I guess that's what states and counties and towns and cities were essentially meant to be, but were they? But that way, you know, if you're in with your tribe, you guys can all agree on your own moral code. Keep it the fuck away from me and mine, right? That seems to be a fair way to do it. And it seems to me that that's the way it was done before we came along. And I think full circle, to quote my daughter, being an Ouroboros, is kind of where we're at. The snake is indeed eating its tail. Politics does indeed smother. It just smothers, it just beats people down, and it steals their will and assigns it to a party. And I don't know about you, but my will is not for sale. That is mine. That is mine. And I don't want to give it away. I don't want it to be taken. I don't want to give it away. I don't want it taken. Man, when you really look into like the Civil War and everything, and the cause of it, and the outcome, you realize that there has been a plan to take slowly subvert the power of the people over time, and it's a truly insidious plan, because first you take away states rights, right? And then you start whittling away at the people's rights, because once they don't have the states there to protect them, they're individuals. And at that point, man, it's each man for himself, isn't it? Yeah, it's going to come down to tribes, though, and turning off these infernal screens. There's nothing good coming out of them except for me and you guys. But you know, how many people still? Oh, did you guys see Disclosure Day? Check Yandex.com, by the way. If you need to watch anything for free, just search for it on Yandex.com and you'll find it. Disclosure Day was nothing but propaganda. Every movie that comes out now is just propaganda. Anyway, I gotta call it a day. I need to get something to drink. And I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your Sunday. Thanks for tuning in. Like, share, subscribe. Check out the donation links below. Adios.